Hi, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Indianapolis, Indiana.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey guys, we've loved answering all of your questions so far. If you'd like to hear your question on the podcast, please send them to us on Instagram at Wheel Talk Podcast or by email to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks.
Hi guys.
Hey, this is Becca and Ryan. We're together for a show I've got this weekend, but we're editing our 100th episode. Becca's been getting through all these. We've got a segment, a series of episodes for you that are the best of, and we hope you like it. It is becoming a lot.
Yes, so the next couple Wednesdays we're going to release segment episodes. So this is like 100.0. And then we'll have like 100.1, 100.2 on Wednesdays. So it doesn't interfere with the regular podcast schedule except for this one. And we hope you enjoy it. We've been laughing a lot while we've been editing this. And enjoy it. And
thanks for listening.
We
hope you enjoy it. And, 100 episodes, it's hard to cut that down into only. We talk 2 hours every week, but it's hard to cut, 200 hours of content that we've talked down into 2 hours. So we don't want to shortchange you and be like, these are the best that we thought, and that's all you get. So. And
also Ryan was the one that was picking all the things. So
these are really my best of. But,
but anyway, if you've been listening this whole time, thank you. Yay!
Yeah, 100 episodes in. Thank you all so much.
Whee!
We appreciate it. And all the questions, all the back and forth, all the Instagram messages we get. We appreciate all of it. So.
Totally. And if you want to support the Patreon, you can. Or if you don't, that's cool too. It's at patreon.com/wheeltalkpodcast.
Yep.
So, hooray! Okay, bye.
Bye.
Oh, okay.
Started.
We're live.
We are.
Ryan, you have a lovely voice.
Nobody hears that except when I talk to my cat. And Rachel. Rachel, of course, hears it.
And of course, yeah. I'm helping this high schooler out. So on Saturday, this high schooler called, and he was like, "Hi, my name's, so-and-so, and I was wondering, my teacher can't fit my project in, and it's due on Wednesday. Could you fire my piece?"
Is it like the local school to you in Monroe or something?
I was like, has she BIS fired it? And he's like, no, she can't fit it into any firing. And I'm like,
how big is this thing?
And I was like, that's what I said. I was like, how big is it? And he's like, I don't know, like 6 inches by like 4 by 4. It's not, by the way. It's like 2.5 by 2.5 by 4. It is tiny. and she like and she can't fit it in. And I'm like, who is this lady? Like, I'm like, are you a terrible student? Like, what's going on? And
that's what I was thinking. I was like, are they just so procrastinating that like it's due, but they don't want to admit that it was not ready?
So this is what happened. But I actually really like this kid now because he's, he walks in, he's kind of like, he's tall, he's 17. I want to say his name, but I'm not gonna. But, and then, he's got like longer hair. And he like walks in and I'm like, so what happened to your piece? And he's like, well, I put it in my backpack because I was in a hurry and I really didn't. And he's like, and then it broke, and then I made a new one, and she wouldn't fire it in time, and then so yesterday he brought it in, and then I made him help me load the bisque kiln that was going to be fired, and I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna do this for you, you're gonna help me do some stuff, So he helped me load the bisque kiln. And while I'm doing this, I'm like, so do you know how hot this gets? And like, I'm trying to like go through some things. He's like, no, she doesn't really go over that stuff. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, what high school teacher isn't telling their kids that the temperature that a kiln gets to is 1875? Like, or no, 1825. But like,
Should be a test question, right?
that should be a test question. That should be a test question. If you are a high school ceramics teacher, that should be a test question. And maybe, I mean, maybe it was. Maybe he's just like not remembering it, but I highly doubt it. And then, he was interested in it. I showed him how to like turn the kiln on and like the whole program and all that stuff. And then he
Nice.
came and then he came back today, and today I was like, "Could you please tell me when you're coming because I don't want to waste my time?" And he texts me at like 3:30 and he's like, "Okay, we're on our way." I was like, "Okay, cool." They live like 15 minutes away, and I'm like, "Great. He's going to be here in like 15 minutes." And I waited for an hour.
Wait, what's he do? What was he coming back to do? Just to glaze it, or
Yeah, just to glaze it. He needs it on Wednesday. Let's this is Monday.
yeah?
Okay.
Wow.
I turned this around for him in 3 days. So and
Wow.
so he came back to glaze it, and he came back at like 4:30, and I was like, "Where the heck were you? Like, how far do you live?"
Did
And
you
he's like,
walk
"Well, we
here?
went to the school." Yeah, right. He was like, "Well, we went to the school, and then we went back home, and then we came here." And I was like, next time, could you just tell me? Because I could
Like,
have
I
gone to
don't
the
care if
store.
it's going to be delayed. Just tell me a time that you can make it realistically,
Right.
so that I'm not waiting.
And then the best part about this whole thing, and I like part of me hopes that nobody that knows him hears this, but part of me hopes that somebody does because it was the cutest thing. He um he made a tea bag holder. That's what it was. It's like a square thing, so a tea bag dispenser, right? So
It
you can
like
put
it's
the
like a jar or something
yeah with
that
like
holds
a,
them.
a slot in the bottom so you can pull the tea bags out.
Oh,
And he meant and he wrote letters around it, and it's SWAG. He meant to say swag, but he spelled it backwards.
why would he spell it backwards?
So it says gauze. And we had a good solid like 2-minute laugh about this because he was like, "What does this say, gauze or swag?" And I was like, "No, that for sure says gauze." And he was like, "I don't know what I'm gonna do." I'm like, "You gotta lie, man. You gotta."
It's an acronym or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to be like, this is actually not for tea bags. This is for like gauze because we get sick a lot and we like hurt ourselves. And like my
That's
mom
not even
wants
how
to
you
put her
spell
like
gauze.
I know. And I was like, and my mom wants to put her like cotton balls or whatever in there. I don't know. I was like, but that you got to roll with that one like as far as you can.
But what does swag have to do with tea bags?
I
Oh, what
don't
an exciting
know.
Monday.
So he kind of like burnt down I was like on a roll, and then with waiting, it kind of like held
Yeah,
me
you're
up
like,
a
I'm
little
to a
bit.
stopping point. All right, they're going to be
Right.
here. And then it just delays and drags on for 3 hours because you're like, I can't
Right.
get too much into this thing. And then we have to
Yeah.
shift.
But then the whole gauze swag thing kind of made up for it. So
So,
that was
potential new intern for the studio
so
or no?
I think so. So funny. Oh my gosh. I was like, "So are you ever going to take ceramics again?" And he's like, "Not in school."
You're like, rule number one, don't put ceramics or wet clay in your backpack.
Uh, highlight of my week. Yeah.
You're saying you could go all in on Paint It Pot and just optimize that, and like that could like sustain
I
you
could if I
you
wanted
wanted
to, I
to.
think, yeah. Yeah, as long as like a crash, like a economic crash didn't happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I really wanted to, but then if I was doing all Paint a Pot, I'd be open every day of the week, or every day except for Monday.
Right.
The reason I'm closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is so that I can work on stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, I could if I wanted to. I could switch over to Paint a Pot only. I'm not going to.
But that's a good option to have,
But
I
I
guess. If
It is
if it gets a little
it's a
tight,
good backup
you can.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good backup plan. And I wouldn't have said that 4 months ago. So I mean, I might not say it in 3 months. But right now at the current state we live in, I could do it, which is comfortable. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And you just, I mean, looking at your pieces at year over year, you see the progress and you get more confident
Yeah.
in what you can make and how efficient you can be at it. And, you get better at selling it. So,
Totally.
it has room to go up.
Yeah. And I think it's taken a lot of years for me to be like comfortable too. I think Tim C on Clay Buddies had a really really good live video that he talked about pricing, and I like his position on it. He's kind of like, you have to price for your market, but you also have to price for your value, and but also I think to add to that is that you have to price and be confident about it. If you're not confident
Right.
about your price, like I'm confident, I have. It doesn't sound like I'm confident right now, but I am. Uh, I have reasons why I've done things the way I've done them, and I also have the sales to back that up. You know, and and if somebody came at me and was like, "Well, why do you sell at this?" I say the exact same thing every time. It's not like I'm searching for reasons of why I do what I do. Like I've already figured that out. So I'm, you know, it's pretty confident in that regard.
You know.
I'll tell you what, if you want a confidence booster, you put out your seconds bin. That's what I would do at a show. If you want a confidence booster, you put out a bin that has all of your seconds pieces in it that you can sell, not the ones that are shit, but the ones that like have a little crack in it that is glazed in, it's totally usable like you would use it at home, but it's just not perfect. And you mark them however you want to mark them, whatever. And you watch, people will flock to that shelf. And they're like, I love this one. It's got character. It doesn't matter how crappy it is or how weird it looks. They love it. And I think that that's like the biggest thing for me is when I started seeing that happen, because I do have a little second shelf on the bottom. And I'm like, people just like what they like. And that's what they
Mm-hmm.
like. They like a good price. They like a weird pot. They like a super weird
Right.
glazing. If it's got, and you're like, oh, well, that one has messed up glaze. They pick it up and they're like, I don't see it. I love it. I'm going to buy
It's like
this.
you're finding a diamond in a rough. Like,
Yeah,
if I go into a store, I'm going straight for that clearance rack because I want to find a diamond in a rough that I can find at a good price.
totally, totally. I think it's totally underrated, the second spin. But
I've never put a second spin out, but
you do have
I can
to,
see the appeal.
yeah, you do have to like mark it clearly though. I mark mine as perfectly imperfect. I also have a $5 bin in my shop that's like the stuff that's been sitting forever, and it's like a cardboard box and it says $5, and people rummage through that all the time. It's great.
Nice.
If it's got a crack in it, toss it. Like I can't tell you how many times I see posts on Clay Buddies where everybody's like, this has a crack in it and I work so hard. And I think every single production potter is like, toss it in the trash. And every single other potter is like, I think you can save it. Like it'll be
Make
fine.
it a planter.
Make it a planter. And it's like, no. If you are working that hard on something, toss it and figure it out. Failure is the path to success. That's my key. I think that's
Yeah,
important.
and a lot of that kind of back and forth is not worth the time and effort. Like, you could just make another one.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And
I
you'll
mean,
probably learn
learn
from it.
something from it and figure out why something happened, or try to figure out if there was something that you did wrong along the process. Or, yeah, like, let's say you're throwing a pot, you come back the next week and you didn't wrap it tight enough, so it dried out too much. Like, you can't just rehydrate and think something's going to work out, and then it ends up cracking. You're like, why did that happen? It's like, I can't follow what you did with every single step of this piece, so it's hard to just tell them as a teacher, like, this is what happened exactly.
Yeah.
It's more like, okay, let's just keep making more and like, you know, get get better over time.
Yeah, I think, and like I said earlier, I think that there's two different types of scenarios. One where you're learning and like you have, like my students have 4 weeks or 5 weeks and they have 25 pounds of clay. And if you're in that scenario, keep everything. Like use it to glaze. Like figure out the glazing. Like use that as a glaze sample, test. But if you already have been in this for a year or two or even 6 months and you make something and it's like, I don't know if I like this, like just trash it. It's fine. It's make another one.
And some of that's like applying for a show. Like when you apply, you're like, I don't feel like my stuff is good enough, but
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of like sign yourself up for it and just get enough confidence to say, you know what, I'm not going to overthink this. I'm not going to second guess and triple and quadruple guess myself about like, what if this doesn't work? What if that doesn't work? Like, just do it. See what happens. Like, you signed
Yeah.
yourself up for this talk like how many months ago?
Oh my god, so many months ago.
Like, you committed to it. That's like, just like if you commit to like talking to somebody and interviewing with somebody or whatever, and you flake or,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I just can't do this, or I'm just not in the mood. Some of that is like, you just got to do it.
Right.
It's not about waiting for that perfect moment of like, okay, I'm now in the perfect, headspace to do this thing. Sometimes you just got to do it and do it as best as you can in the moment
Yeah.
and not worry about all those second guessing yourself and doubting yourself and all that kind of. How do you figure out like pricing for stuff like that? I feel like that's the hardest part with the custom because they want to know how much they're going to be paying for this thing, and like estimating your time realistically for something that you have unknowns about is so hard.
I know. Well, I think that it's important to not breach out of your comfort level by any means. Like, for me, taking something that's a challenge doesn't mean that I can't do it. Like making a teapot pour over. First of all, I told them there is a chance that I will not be able to do this. Like, I never promised anything. And then once I made the test, that's when I was like, this is how much money it's going to be. I think I probably priced it a little bit too low. I don't think they have the clientele to buy $100 teapot, So, but at the end of the day, when I was doing it, I was like, this is a hell of a lot more easy than I thought it would be.
Like proportions they want. So some of those specifics. It depends on the person too. Like some people are very particular.
Oh yeah, I usually
And
don't
like,
go
are
with
you
this.
going to be able to satisfy what they are picturing in their head?
Right.
I feel like that's kind of part of what factors into whether I'm going to do it or not.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, I've told people. I admit that I've told people no because I didn't want to work with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Is that in person, like when they're telling you the idea
or over the phone.
and it's pretty quick, or
Yeah, I mean it's not, and it's not anything personal. It's not like, it's just, it's usually about what like season of life I'm in right there. If it's summer, if it's winter, if I have time to think about this, and if there's a potential for more. If there's a potential for more and I know that I don't want to do it in the first place, there's almost a guarantee that I'm going to say no. You
a
know,
potential for more like a second custom order from
right,
them?
like a second order. I think that I think that's something that people ordering, and I don't know if there will be a lot of people listening to this that order a whole lot, but I think that's something that people ordering don't realize is that I just lost my whole train of thought.
Is it something about the effort
Oh,
involved and the
yeah, well,
research involved,
most
or
people think that multiples of something should make something less money. Like the standard question of like, oh well, if I order 100 of those, can I get a break on it? And for somebody like me who's a one man show, I'm like, no, but I'll put more money in it. If you want to pay $2 extra for 100, I'm fine with that because it
Because you have
is.
to make more than 100. You have to make like 125.
Yeah, and well, yeah, because inevitably something will break, a cat will die, like, fall all over it or something, but like making 100 mugs is not easier than making 20. It's making 20 mugs is easier than making 100. So
Right.
quantity is not a driving factor ever in price, I think. And and it's like the question I get all the time, well, what if I order 100 of those? It's still the same price. You're not going to get a break on that. Like, I
Yeah.
still have to go through all of the things, and so I think that that's important too, as somebody who's buying, um, that the price that you are given is the price that you're given because of all the factors involved.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like it's hard to stick up to that sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
you're like grateful for them wanting to spend $200 on an order,
Right.
and you feel like if you give them $20 of a break or something on it, then you're still getting $180, like a dollar's a dollar kind of thing.
Yeah.
Are you risking not getting the order if you say no, they're going to be full price?
Right. Yeah, I don't
Like,
know.
are you saying like I don't appreciate your order more than someone who is just six random people buying six things than you
Right.
buying six things?
Totally. I think that so well, okay, I should say that the previous statement was geared towards wholesale customers, um, which isn't even about custom orders. But for like if somebody orders a place setting and they order more than six, or I have a more than four $2 off deal, and I always have, like always. I don't know why.
Okay. Yeah, that's
So
what I was relating it to when you were saying that.
yeah,
That it was more like I'm getting six of the same thing.
yeah. No, I'm talking. Yeah. So it's different. I think it's different between 6 and 100, right? Um. Yeah, I think that it's appropriate to like do a set discount is what I would say, a set discount instead
Yeah.
of instead of a quantity discount, a set discount. So
Because the wholesale, they're already getting a discount. They're already getting 50% of it
they totally are.
off, and they're profiting on the remainder.
Sorry, that was like a sidewall, and I was relieving all my pet peeves.
That would hurt your business.
Oh, absolutely. When I was starting out, I never gave any discounts at all. But now that I've kind of have like an established state of being, I can be a little bit more lenient on that.
Yeah.
I don't recommend anybody starting out their business give discounts to anyone, especially your mother. Make your mother pay.
Are you listening, Mom? You hear that?
Make them pay. Especially because I have never. My mom gives me the most ridiculous orders too. Like she has put me through the ringer on custom orders, and I'm like, Mom,
Oh
you
my
this
gosh.
is ridiculous. And yes,
I've
you're paying.
I've turned down a custom from my dad. He asked for something ridiculous. I'm like, you could buy that thing at like Home Goods for like $20. I'm not making you the. He asked for like an umbrella stand that was like 3 feet tall or something, and I'm like, that would barely fit in my kiln. That would cost you like over $100. I'm not charging you that. Go to Lowe's and get one for like $20 or
That's
something.
hilarious. I know.
And
Yeah.
then and then it's like, oh, but I'm giving you business. No, you're giving me a headache, is what
Yeah,
you're
you're
giving
giving.
me.
Yeah, I think that it's really important, especially when custom orders are involved. Custom orders and family. Okay. Is your family asking you this because they think they're helping you or because they are helping you? And you need to determine that, okay? Because if they aren't helping you and you're going to end up hating your family because you made this thing for them and it didn't work out and all these things happened and all this problem happened and then by the end of it they expect you to give them a discount, you do not need to do that. Like, no,
That's
just
great.
drop it right there. Drop it, move along. Say, you know what? I can't do that for you. I've probably recommended you for a lot of things. Especially when
That's
people ask
funny.
me for yarn bowls. I'll be like, I don't
Yarn
make those,
bowl.
but
That's what I was
Ryan
just
does.
thinking. Send them my way. Send them my way.
So I think that that's also a very important thing to say, is that uh, sometimes family and friends do not realize the process that you have to go through to do certain things.
But
So
actually,
just,
they probably understand more than most people, but they still want a discount.
yes, that's true.
They probably follow you on social media and they see that you're
Mm-hmm.
working and you're doing this thing and you got this side gig and you're working at it and you're selling at shows. Like, they probably know that more than other people do.
Right. I have a friend, my best friend. She will listen to this podcast because she's my best friend, out of state best friend, and she is she's the best like example of what a good friend is when buying something from an artist. She expects zero discount. She buys things on my regular sales. She sometimes does custom orders, but they're always within the realm of what I can do. And she's not pushy. She always gets a discount because she doesn't expect it. And she, but she supports me fully, and she also understands that sometimes things just don't work out. And if you're a friend and you have a friend that does a craft, be that friend. Be the friend that pays full price. Be the friend that supports you no matter what. Be the friend that, like, understands that shit hits the fan sometimes.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Thanks, Jen. You're the bomb.
Yeah. I guess what would you say makes it a negative experience? Would it that you can control? Is it, I would say that it factors into, we as humans underestimate the time and effort it takes to do something that we have not done before.
Yes.
We are terrible at estimating time.
Absolutely.
And even the time of going back and forth with someone to determine what they actually want. Like, I was talking with a friend yesterday, and she was talking about the custom order that she's been working with this person on, and she's probably spent like 4 hours in total with like an hour phone call here and, emails back and forth, and all this time that you spend going back and forth on this thing, and you're not even to like getting an estimate yet, or a product that's even been practiced on being made or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that it's, for sure. So many projects I've been like, oh, that'll be easy, it'll be fine, and then you spend like so much time, especially wholesale products. Not to get back to wholesale, but that is especially what I feel like I underestimate my time value life with, is wholesale. But yeah, I think that there's like so much time talking to people, and I think that's also why I stopped, is because I don't have the energy or the patience to talk to people that much. And so, yeah, I just didn't, I got burned really early on. Like, the first order I ever did was a custom order that I got burned on. So I've kind of been like very apprehensive about it ever since. But yeah.
Did you get burned because you didn't agree to a price, or you did agree to a price and then that burned you because you put way more work than you actually got out of it? Or
No, well, with like Starbucks, when I was doing the Starbucks order, we agreed upon a quantity, and then they changed their mind. Like, right when I was just getting them done. So, like, they're like, oh, instead of 30, we actually want 15, And so, and me being like the non-confrontal new business owner
like,
who's
that's
working
not what
with,
we agreed to, kind of thing.
yeah, who's working with Starbucks, didn't know how to buck up and tell him. And then, but also one of my first like personal orders, it was just like, oh, well, can I have this color? Can I have this color? No, we don't have that color, but I really want this color. I'm like, well, I'll try. Never say I'll try if you know that it's not going to happen. Just say, sorry, nope, I can't. you
Yeah.
know? And there was just like a lot of impossible scenarios that I was like, well, maybe. And I should have just been like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And eventually I ended up firing the customer. So
Yeah, I
you can
definitely
do
try
that,
to
by the way. You can
avoid.
fire your own customers.
Oh, really?
That is in your own wheelhouse. Hi. Hi, so and so. I really don't think this is going to work out. I appreciate you wanting me to do it, but you know what? It's just not in my wheelhouse right now. Thank you. Goodbye.
Nice. I probably should have done that a couple times. Yeah, I feel like when you're early on, you're just happy somebody wants to pay you for
Yeah.
stuff to like make them something. So you're like, oh, you want this thing custom? Yeah, sure, I'll do it, because you don't have other sales like waiting, or you don't know where the next sale is.
Right.
So if you have a custom order, it gives you a sense of like, I'm working towards something, versus, spending 5 hours working on production and getting stock
Right.
built up that is worth probably more in value in total than like a custom order that you've worked on for 5 hours.
Totally. But,
Like,
some people make their whole business on custom orders, so
yeah,
it can be good for some people, it can be bad for others.
yeah, just depends on what you're comfortable with and
Yeah.
whatnot.
That was kind of like there was kind of this weird shift where like I don't know. I also felt like Instagram is weird, right? Like people just want like more of us, but like they want like a very polished and like cute version. And like things were like not feeling very polished and cute and like, spoiler alert, still depressed. But
Yeah, me too.
like it just felt gross like not to be sharing that. Like I would like get on there every day and be like, okay, what do people want to hear? And like it just felt so awful. And so finally one day I was like, you know what, they're gonna hear how I feel. um and it became this thing where like a lot of people, I'm sure it made a lot of people uncomfortable, and like I don't really care. Because it's stuff that like I, not that I like it when other people are sad, but like it's nice to like see something like that and be like, oh, like I'm not the only depressed person in the entire world, because that's like what depression does. It like makes you feel really fucking special. um,
Right?
you're like, no one's ever felt this way before. um, but yeah, so I like started sharing more and more, and like people were like not expressing discomfort, but like reaching out and being like, hey, like I deal with this too, like let's talk about it. And like it kind of became this like very lighthearted exchange between me and people. Like those posts would turn into like private side conversations, and it was just like very cathartic and like nice to get it out there. And so now like I share when I want to, and I don't when I don't want to, and I just try to like I try not to pretend, not because like people respond well to it and it like makes me feel nice, but like mostly because I need to be posting to like maintain, you know, my account, and like I don't want to lie because it feels gross. So
And then I unfollow them.
let them
Because
go.
just because it's and like I don't want to judge them, and I don't want to think ill of anybody, but it does affect me emotionally when
Yeah.
I do look at an account like that, especially when I'm in a point of, oh my god, I can't do this, like I
Yeah, it's
don't
not
want to get out of
costing you
bed.
anything to unfollow them. It's not like they're gonna get notified that you
Yeah.
specifically unfollowed them and they're gonna be butthurt about it. Like if it's hurting your mental state to see them in your feed a lot, and it's just
Right.
like negatively affecting
Get
you, then
out.
like just
Hmm.
unfollow them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that that is not said enough.
I agree. It like I feel weird sometimes doing it. There are some people, depending on like my relationship with them, and like this like it says nothing about them and everything about me, but there are like some people who I've chosen to like mute because I don't feel comfortable unfollowing them, because I feel like they'll probably notice and like maybe feel a little
hmm
hurt just based on the fact that like, we're like pals. But that
yeah.
doesn't like make it any less like valid that their stuff like pisses me off or like makes me feel bad about myself. So I just make them go away.
Right.
Just sleep and breathe in silica.
Yeah, silicosis for life.
Oh God, I'm so scared of that. I'm like, and I know I'm scared of it, and like I don't do anything about it. My studio's a mess. I
Me
haven't mopped in
too.
like months, and I'm just like, I'm healthy and young. I'm fine.
I'm fine. I don't know if I've actually totally said this, but like for 3 years, I had a studio in my basement and I would like sand pottery, in the basement. Like I specifically remember trying to like vacuum up all the dust. Like I would come out of the basement with dust in my nose, just like
Oh my God.
just like caked in my nose. And this is like before I even knew what silicosis was. And
Just
then I found out.
Just like
And I
dry
was like,
clay boogers, and you're just like,
Oh God.
I'm
the
dying.
actual F. Like, what have I done?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm gonna die. I'm just gonna die. Like,
I'll do you one better, and maybe this is like PG-13 and not PG, but like I used to make little pipes, and like I still do sometimes. I would call them whistles back then. And I once, like when I started making them, I got so excited. I could only fire like intermittently because I didn't have my own kiln. So things would sit in the bisque stage for a long time, and I would smoke out of these bisqued pipes, which I now know to be extremely dangerous.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. You want one better than that?
Yeah. Oh God.
We're telling horror stories here.
I need you to go to the doctor tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes,
I
people,
used
the-
to.
Don't do this.
Yeah. We should preface this with don't do this. When I started, oh, this is so bad. I can't believe I'm saying this. Okay, I used to roast marshmallows out of the peephole of the kiln in the bisque though. I would never do the other one. But like after it was at like medium.
Oh my God.
Making s'mores.
This is why education is really important.
Yeah.
I'm basically gonna die, but it's fine because
Oh my God. Yeah, know your materials. Know
Yeah,
what's
that's the
in
thing.
them.
If you're self-taught, like, where do you learn this stuff? If you're self-taught and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I know how to throw, and I know
Yeah.
how like the general things of kilns work, but you don't know about ventilation or like the habits
Yeah.
of not getting dust everywhere, and
My
I mean,
friend.
it's so important to know that stuff. And like when you're taught by certain people that kind of like let you just go, there's nothing that is keeping you from knowing those like I don't know. There's nothing that's like saying, "Oh, hey, here's a handbook that says silica is bad." Like, and silicosis is a thing. Like, I have no idea how that never even came up in college. It never came up. It like probably minorly came up when I was learning, but like nobody
Yeah.
made a big deal about it.
it's probably one
Yeah.
of those things where you're in classes and about 2 of the people in that class is going to do clay past college,
Right.
and like the amount of knowledge you're going to like give them that's actually going to benefit the greater class is like it'll just go right over their head. But I mean, it's still important to know that stuff.
Yeah.
So important.
I found out when my friends like sat me down, and like one of them, they're both potters. One was visiting from New York City, and one has a studio, like a collective studio space in Burlington. And I was at the studio, and like my friend from New York City had just sat my other friend down, and they were talking really like seriously about silicosis and like why it's important to have like good, like studio cleaning practices. And I like walked in, and my friend Brielle was like, "Kate, tell her, like, tell her what you just told me." And they like sat me down, and my face the whole entire time was just like,
Clay
"Oh
intervention.
my God," that's what it felt like. And I was like, "I sweep every day."
We shouldn't be laughing about this, but seriously though, it's ridiculous.
I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny how little people know about it. I guess is like, it's so obvious now. Like, no, you're gonna die, but like people probably go years and years without knowing these things.
Yeah.
And like Not that I practice them, but I know better. I don't do better, but
Yeah, I went 7 years without knowing. 7
yeah,
years.
that's wild.
And
Yeah. There's
yeah,
a
and just
and
making like incremental improvements too, like getting a air filter that's gonna like improve your air and like making sure your kiln is vented, like little things like that. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be okay, you
or
gotta vent your
turn the
kiln,
fan
you gotta
outwards, not inwards.
yeah,
Oh God.
blow the air out of your room that you're in, not into the room. So it's just a big cloud of kiln gases.
Oh God.
Yeah. I was reading a couple days ago that some lady like dropped a bag of chemicals, like, just glaze chemicals, like, I don't know, it's probably silica or something like that. And then she got a collapsed lung from it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, if your immune system's already weak from something else, it can add to that. So, and like, I learned, when I learned how to mix glazes, I did not learn with a respirator. There was no respirator involved, So
Yeah.
now we use a respirator.
Definitely.
But,
Yeah.
yeah,
We know better now.
we do.
That's a good idea. I find myself getting
Yeah.
resentful. Like I still have wholesale clients who like I sell things to for so freaking dirt cheap, and I just like feel really resentful every time I have to make them. And that's like my own fault. Like they're still great clients, but like me, I made the mistake really early on of like undervaluing my stuff, you know?
I think
Price
that
is gonna go up
maybe,
over time, right? I mean, can you have
yeah,
a
I think that
conversation
this
with
is
them?
one of those situations where you need to be honest to a point with your clients, but also I think you can look this up and like find an email for this, kind of just saying like, hey, just so you know, as my business has progressed, my price, like, my expenses have progressed and all these things. So this is now my current updated line sheet.
Mhm.
Like, this will be the price from now on. Let me
Mhm.
know if you have any questions. Like,
Definitely.
don't say, hey, I'm updating your specific price. Be like, this is the price across the board now. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can't, just to keep everything in place, I cannot cater to every single customer I have, but this, like, we're set, right? Like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you of course have to like approach it with finesse and be respectful of your clients, but
Mhm.
but there's no reason why you shouldn't be charging what you want to be charging.
Yeah, I agree.
It'd be better to drop those clients than to be pissed while you're making them. And I completely understand what you're saying, by the way. I am so
Because you feel
pissed
like
sometimes
there's a, yeah,
when I'm like
feel
making things.
like,
I'm like,
oh,
God
I'm making
dang
this
it!
for
Like, why did I
less than
charge
I
Yeah.
this
would make
cost?
to somebody
You
else.
know?
Why did I do this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, like, if we're thinking realistically for supply and demand, you don't have any extra time that you've had 3 years ago. I mean, you're getting more
Hmm.
efficient at making stuff,
Yeah.
so you might be shaving off time, but your demand is going up the more customers you have, so your price has to go up, or else you're just going to kill yourself to meet this price that you've promised.
Mhm.
So I think they would understand that, hey, my business is growing, and their quality of pieces are probably increasing and getting way better anyways since you started
Definitely.
giving them. So
Right.
the price is legitimized there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I just need to grow a backbone and like have those like crucial conversations.
Yeah. And
That's hard, right?
what I've stopped doing also is telling my wholesalers what price I want them to sell the piece at, and instead saying, this is my price. I don't care what you sell it at.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, this is a moment of Becca being an idiot and just like, don't do what I say.
I'm just thinking back to our discussions about sanding dry for years.
Oh my God, years.
And then you're like, "What? I've never done them wet." What? Well, yeah, that's the problem. Sand wet.
Victoria from Tried and True, and she like posted a video, and I was like, you do it wet? Hey, I also just found, so we were talking about the diamond disc that you put on a bat. I just found one on Amazon. It's a 60 grit, 8-inch outside diameter jewelry polishing tool, diamond coated flat lap disc grinding polishing wheel. What a name.
They're trying to hit all those SEO top
Yeah.
titles.
And guess how much it is? It's $16.88. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't support Diamond Core. You should support Diamond Core. But the fact of the matter is that we have to pay our bills. And if you can find a 100 grit sanding disc for $16 and
if
make
it's
it
worth
work,
the $16 for you and you get longevity out of it and you treat it well.
yeah, like if you were
it
never
could
going to buy
give
a
you
diamond,
$16 worth of value.
yeah, if you were never going to buy one from Diamond Core, or you would buy one for $15, get the $15 one.
What about plastic buckets? Where have you got plastic buckets before?
Okay, so I'm kind of a cheater. So
You're a cheater.
Well,
Did you got them from Sherwin-Williams because
yeah,
you
I
worked
used
there,
to
right?
work at Sherwin-Williams for years, and so
Stealing them out the back.
No, they give them to me. And, I mean, more often than not, if you develop a relationship with anybody in the paint store, they'll just give you a bucket. But yeah, I use 5-gallon buckets from from Sherwin-Williams. They just give them to me. Otherwise, they're like $5. But any restaurant, deli, pizza place,
Bakery.
anything like that, they're always going to have those square buckets or round buckets. I use my friend's sauerkraut round buckets. Those are 5 gallons. The mayonnaise buckets are 3 gallons. The
I just got a pickle bucket that was 5 gallons.
pickle buckets, 5 gallons. Or my friend gave me artichoke jars. Those are all glass jars, and I use them for glaze materials. Olive containers, if you've got any place that does charcuterie. Olives, they have 1-gallon buckets. Like, you can get so many gallon, like 3 to 5 to 1-gallon buckets from restaurants, and they don't want them. They throw them out the back and throw them away. So
Yeah, it might be a call them on the phone or go visit their shop and buy something and say, hey, I'm
or eat
local
there.
to you. Yeah. Don't try to just like email them or you know drop in and ask and leave. Like kind of be appreciative if they do have some. And hopefully you can get some lids from them too.
And you can offer to pay for them too. I wouldn't offer too much, but the likelihood of them saying, please just take them is high.
Yeah, there was a deli near me or bakery near me that I called, and she was like, call back on Friday when this person's here because he collects all the buckets and then he does whatever with them, and he's here that can handle that. So I called him, and then he was like, yeah, just stop by. I'll show you what I got, and we'll see. And I offered to pay and stuff, and it turned out his daughter was going to school where I went to school at, so we kind of chatted about art, and she's studying art, so he just gave them to me. Yep. Pretty sweet. I got like 50 buckets, a bunch of 1-gallon buckets or 1.5 gallon, and then some 4-gallon buckets maybe with lids, so I got a good batch of them.
Oh, pitchers from the dollar store. I forgot. Pitchers from the dollar store are really great too.
Yeah. Like 2-quart pitchers.
Yeah, like the tall ones. Those are really cool. Those are really nice. Especially if you need it, like if you don't have very much glaze and you need to glaze something tall.
I like to use that for pulling handles. I put my water in that and like dip my handles in that.
I think honestly, a pitcher would be ideal for any type of water bucket because you really don't need a wide water bucket. You just need a lot of water. So if you do tall, then all your clay can sink down to the bottom.
Mm-hmm. And comparatively for the buckets, if you buy them at Lowe's or Home Depot or Sherwin-Williams or whatever, they're like you're going to spend like $4 or $5 with a lid.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you can get a bunch for free or cheap or whatever, and if you get a lot, like I just shared 5 or 6 of them with people around me. I got way too many, so it's like, hey, when somebody needs some buckets, here's 5 or 6 buckets.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, an extension of the buckets.
The
next one on the list is cat litter containers. I use these so much. I don't know if you do. You probably don't have those. I don't see them in your studio a lot. But
here's the thing. I like really was on the cat the cat litter container like train. I was on it. I was ready to go. And the problem that I have is that the cat litter is terrible. So
the kind that's in there that you don't like it?
yeah, no, it doesn't clump for shit, and then it just smells really bad. And I have 3 cats.
I had 2 cats. You would have to clean it out pretty frequently, depending on where you're, depending on where it's located, I guess.
So I have 3 litter boxes. Okay, 3, and the cat. I tried. I did 2, like maybe 4 months of solid of that litter, and I just can't do it. I can't do it. I like the idea of the closing lids. However, they do close a little too easily, and yeah,
They close too easily? What does that
like,
mean?
you get your hands stuck in there. Like, they don't stay open.
What? Just don't overfill them and you can shut them.
No. I mean, shutting them's fine. I'm saying, like, sometimes I
you're
like
talking
to
about when
leave
you open it, it doesn't stay open.
Yeah, it doesn't stay open.
I just keep a little, like, extra ceramic pot there
Yeah.
that I just sit on top of the lid so it stays open.
Yeah. So I like the idea, but instead now I have a bunch of cardboard boxes that I have no idea what to do. I seriously had 40 cardboard like cat litter boxes in my shop last week.
Oh.
But
so I use them for wet clay. I probably have at any time 4 to 5 of these. The buckets I have are basically 5-gallon buckets that are square. They hold 35 pounds of cat litter. And I have probably 4 to 5 filled with wet clay at any given time.
Are they 5 gallons or are they 3 or 4?
The ones that I have are like 5 gallons.
Are you sure?
Yes. I haven't measured, but if I'm holding them next to a 5-gallon bucket, they're the same height as a 5-gallon bucket.
Okay. I know. I just use a regular 5-gallon bucket for my wet clay and a refrigerator.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't. If I need buckets, I'll use the round ones for like glazes and stuff, because if you use the cat litter buckets for glaze, it settles down in the little crevices. So I like them for clay because I can open and close them, and then they're perfect for raw materials. Do you use them for raw materials and stuff?
I should, but no. Well, I use trash cans for my raw materials. Yeah. This winter, I can't remember what I was shipping out. I think it must have been like pasta bowls or something, and I ran out of packing like everywhere. Like, we were out of peanuts, we were out of everything. And so I just started pulling because you have like the trash from all your labels, and it's just like paper trash. And I sent a box, and it had so much like of everything. It was like,
did somebody just send me a box of garbage? What is this?
Basically, and I can't remember who I sent it to, but it must have been somebody that I knew, because I don't think I would have done that normally. But it was just like packing label, like paper, and like pieces of styrofoam and pieces of cut cardboard, and some egg cartons. Egg cartons are great for packing, by the way. If you are near anybody with children that doesn't have chickens, get your egg cartons from them.
Like styrofoam ones?
No, the paper ones. They always paper egg cartons.
I never see those. Like,
do they only use styrofoam? Like, we don't. I haven't seen a styrofoam egg carton in years.
That's what we have.
Well,
that's what we have over here on the East Coast.
Probably because you're
in Midwest.
Probably because you guys hate the environment.
The only paper ones I would see is if you bought like organic eggs.
Well, maybe all of our eggs are organic. But yeah, no. Well, even so, the styrofoam was fine, but they work great for filling space. Saved. It would have cost me the same amount of money to buy it from the pottery store than it would to make it with the time that I spent. So, if you have all the time in the world, by all means, make your things. If you don't have time, and it can actually be cheaper to buy it. I hate to say that. I really love making things. Like, I love DIY, but it really can be cheaper just to buy it. So make sure that you are like looking at all of the options so that you know.
Yeah, I did one thing that I think you still have the materials for it, but I made that DIY glaze fountain.
I still do have the materials for it.
And I made it, and I've used it like twice because I worry about the cleaning part. I'm like, I can just clean out a little bucket that I like pour glaze in and out, and like clean that quicker than clean this whole glaze pump and putting it in and out of buckets. And
It's not that hard to clean out, actually.
well, I'm thinking like, and then like sticking it on the bottom of the bucket, the little suction cup, one of the suction cups always stays on the bottom, so you're like, well, I
So
gotta
just
dig in
take
here and
the
get this.
suction cups off, Ryan.
Well, then it doesn't stay straight.
Well, did you do a big metal bowl with a hole cut in the bottom?
Yeah. And that hole in the bottom is so sharp. I need to like grind it or something if I use it.
Put tape on it. Tape around it.
Ooh, that's not a bad idea.
Smart. We should have talked about the glaze fountain.
Well, it's good. People can look it up on Mitchell, Spain, or Forest Ceramico, or I'm sure there's other people out there that have made them.
Yep.
It's basically a water pump for, what is it for? Water? It's a pump for like
for a fountain.
for fountains and like ponds and
I just
stuff
keep
like that.
thinking about how I used one when I went to Gravesco this last like 2 weeks ago, and I don't think that I'm cut out for a glaze fountain, because you like push the pedal down, like it's a foot pedal, so you push the foot pedal and that makes it go, and then it shoots out, and it can shoot out like 4 feet. And
depending on what setting you have it at and how strong your pump is.
Yeah, how strong you got your glaze pump. And there was like 4 pieces that I like did the glaze pump, and I forgot to put the piece over it. and I was like,
it's just raining glaze in the studio.
Yeah, it starts like spraying glaze, and like my brain was like, oh, look, glaze. and like, I don't know why, but my brain didn't think, take your foot off the pedal, like move the piece onto it. Like, it didn't like have there was nothing in my reflexes were so terrible that it happened 3 to 4 times each time.
Jeez.
And I was like, God. I feel like I am the best example of what not to do while venting in kilns.
Should we start with so there's a bunch of different situations of like what you're working with, I guess, for your studio. Do you want to talk about like how you started at your old house or something like that?
I mean, sure. I would like to preface this with no one, and I mean no one, told me about venting a kiln when I started doing pottery. So.
Yeah, it's not a test kiln that's like tiny.
It might be 20 inches tall. You're right. It might be 20 inches tall. I don't know. But it for sure is 16 inches wide.
Okay. That's a good starter kiln for anybody out there that's trying to get firings frequently enough to where you're not cranking things out for a long time.
Totally. And it's a great kiln. And I bisqued in that type of kiln for a long time. So I put that in my basement. There was 2 windows in my basement. That was it. And fired most of my stuff in that. And I just didn't go downstairs when the kiln was running. Really.
So you just prop the 2 windows open any time of year?
No, I didn't even open up the windows. Nobody told me.
Oh,
Nobody
okay.
told me.
Did it smell funky or anything like that, or?
Of course it did.
Okay.
And
that's a sign to think about if it's smelling funky.
Yeah, if it smells weird, like open a window, put a fan in there or something. Going out, not going in. And yeah, I mean, it was just like no one told me. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But just don't do that. Don't do that. Now, if I'm not going to... I can't believe I'm saying this on a podcast.
We're gonna get to some nitty gritty that I'm sure you're gonna have some answers that some people are gonna be like, hell no. Okay.
What? If I'm not going to be there, I'm going to close my kiln lid, okay? And then I'm going to walk away. Now, I'm going to preface this also with saying I have footage, like cameras on my kilns all the time. I also have anxiety, so I check them all the time. But the reality is I cannot sit next to my kiln 24/7. You know, we almost always have a kiln running. Can I say something while all these people are silently judging me for my decisions?
Sure.
Do you want to mention how when you open your kilns and stuff?
I feel I'm gonna get hate mail from this whole episode.
I want people to know what you can do, because you've proven that you can do certain things with when. Because people ask, when can you open your kiln? When's it safe to take bisque out? When's it safe to take glaze out? All that stuff. So.
Okay, I don't push bisque kilns very much. However, those are actually the kilns that you can push more than glaze. So bisque kilns, I usually unload under. I'll prop the lid at like 350, and I'll
What's
unload.
prop the lid? Is that like an inch or two?
Like an inch or two, and then
Okay.
I'll unload it like. Well, okay. Let's start with glaze actually. So with glaze, I go from the rule of thumb of I prop the lid at 500 degrees, an inch. And then at 400 degrees, I prop it a little bit higher. And then at 300, I prop it a little bit higher. And usually around 250, I'm unloading. I've unloaded at 400 degrees before.
Holy shit.
Is
that when you're saying unloading, you're not just talking you open the lid all the way and you just let it cool. You're actually taking pieces out hot at 400.
Well, yeah, when you're on a time limit. Yes, I've
and
taken pieces
you're not
out
putting
at
those
400.
in cardboard boxes. You're putting those in something.
No, I have almost lit in a cart. It was so funny. I pulled a piece out for somebody. I can't remember who it was. And, like, I had to have it. It had to be out. So I pulled it out and wrapped it up in paper, and the paper started smoking.
Oh, my gosh. See, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, what material do you put that in when it's that hot?
Well, don't put it on plastic. I can tell you that. I've melted a few tables. Okay, so the reason, you're not gonna, most pottery is past the state of, what is that, thermal shock. But most pottery is past that at 400 degrees. You're not gonna ruin your pieces by opening up your kiln at 400 degrees. What you're gonna ruin is your kiln. So if I hear any cracking in my kiln, the lid's down. Now, that doesn't stop me from, like, opening it up, grabbing a piece, and then pulling it out. But
cracking in your kiln, do you mean the...
Like, the lid will crinkle a little bit. Like, it'll be like... It'll go ting. Like...
Okay.
It sounds like that because it's, like, moving. It's, like, expanding and contracting because it's hitting cold air all of a sudden. So...
Ooh, okay.
And that's what makes a lot of cracks in lids. Is that, you know, that immediate... Hello, we just entered cold air. Like, let's shock you into submission. And so that's the thing, right? It's not, I am not concerned about the pottery at all. What I'm concerned about is my kiln. And so you have to be careful of that. Now, if it was an old kiln, don't give two shits. I'm going to prop that up and it's not going to be an issue, right? But I have all brand new kilns. So, but yeah, so yes, I've unloaded at 400 degrees. I remember I didn't have a thermocouple when I used to live at the house until like way later. Thankfully, I got one. And I remember like just sitting waiting for Leavenworth and being there, like sitting in front of the kiln at 5 a.m. and Googling forums. How early can I open up the kiln? Right. And it's just like super indecisive. But exactly. I would do that like weekly because I have anxiety. So I knew the answer. But I'm like one of those people that like if I don't find the answer I'm looking for, I'll find it and I'll like search until I find the one I want.
doing.
I feel like every episode that we do of this podcast, I'm increasingly like, I just feel like it's more.
You're getting
proof
more and
that,
more higher on people's shit list.
Yeah, there's just more and more proof that I should not be giving advice.
Entertainment. It's for entertainment.
I guess. Listen, just in the future, guys, listen to Ryan. Don't listen to Becca. Listen to Ryan.
Thing is, and I think it's because of the vent.
I think you need a new kiln.
Becca trying to sneak in here with new equipment. But that's an interesting idea, though. I mean, I would be willing to turn it off for 30 or 45 minutes if it means that I can get that last cone down, and then I can.
Yeah, you should try it.
The kiln will go off.
What did you glaze in? This is your small kiln?
Yeah.
Do you have any kiln that fires correctly?
I mean, what do you mean correctly? Like the same cone top to bottom?
Yeah.
No, not without some kind of intervention.
Here's what I also think, and I know you don't believe in this opinion, probably, but...
You're going to say get a new kiln.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
I know how you work.
No, I just think that spending a little money to make your pieces and your equipment work well and work the way they're supposed to work is so much better than fighting it and trying to figure out.
And trying to adjust the situation I'm in to say...
Because if you have something that's consistent all the time, you don't have to worry about your pieces. And I mean,
I just
whether
need
that
to do
means
more trial with
whether that means
how
like,
to get it consistent.
Right. I mean, is your kiln in pieces?
No. Oh yeah. It's in
the big
bands.
kiln?
It's in three bands.
So have you ever tried putting the bottom band on the top and the top band on the bottom?
No, because the top band's attached to the lid.
Can you change that?
I would have to. No, I would have to dismantle the lid from the top band, and the bottom band is also has the floor. I think the bottom actually includes the floor too.
Yeah.
So they're not really swappable.
But I mean, like, I just know from having things that never work right, and then figuring out how to either buy that thing that works right or fix it to make it work right. Having something work right and spending a little money to make it work right will save you so much time and energy and like worry in the future, and you won't have to wait for your kiln to shut off and watch the cones. That's why he was late today, because he had to watch his cones shut off.
Which I didn't actually end up waiting for because I let the kiln sitter drop.
Right. So, like, I just, having things that actually work is so much more
or
understanding
the right way to load the kiln so that it fires consistently. Because it could totally be on me that I'm loading it.
It's not.
Wrong.
It's not.
But is this, if the solution were to be like, okay, you have to replace all the elements or else you're not going to get consistent firing, like, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to spend all that money to replace elements that I know are in various parts of their life to get a consistent firing. Because that's a lot of money. I'm not going to do that right now. Plus, I know what work goes into replacing elements. I'm not going to put all that work in to replace the elements.
Then fine.
Like,
have a shitty load then. I have no sympathy for you.
For glaze.
That's bullshit. This is like, I feel like we're bickering.
I mean,
I
can. But there are also glazes that I can use at Cone 5 that are fine. So I think what I'm going to do is I will try the adjustment and loading. I'll space the loading out so it's a taller stilts at the bottom, and I'll space things out, and I'll put things in that I know can go to Cone 5 and they're fine if I'm still in the same situation. Fire it like I normally do, load the rest of it, and then like see what happens. You know me, I'm not going to leave a whole shelf of 5 inches empty.
I know that, but you know what? Sometimes you're wrong. And I just want you to know that putting a Band-Aid on something when it actually needs a fucking, like,
But but how do I know what I'm doing is going to fix it? How do I know that all new elements are going to fix it?
You don't, but there's nothing wrong with
replacing.
Like, I have never replaced just one element. every time I have an issue with my kilns that is an element involved, I always replace every single one of them. It just guarantees that I'm always going to get, like, start from fresh. Start from scratch. And there's, like, if there's something wrong, then I know it's not the elements. Then I know it's not any of the elements because I just put brand new ones in.
Yeah,
I mean, just think of it this way. If you get all of your elements at the same time, you should be replacing them all at the same time. That's just the way it works.
I don't get them all at the same time. I just get the one that goes out.
You should have.
It's part of the whole, like, okay, am I fixing the thing to get back to where I was? Or am I, like, I don't know. And plus I have this log of things that I've done. So it's like, how do I know what to go off of that's going to work? I don't know. It's hard.
Just don't suffer for something that can be easily
I'm not suffering. I mean,
fixed.
I'm figuring out what I need to do to get what I need to get. And if I need to load the kiln differently, then I load the kiln differently.
You're being cheap.
I am being cheap. I'll admit that. But also, it's like, you know how much work goes into changing elements. Like, if I don't want to do that.
I wish I was rich. I would just buy you a kiln. I seriously cannot wait until the day that you give in and then you buy a brand new kiln. I know this will be probably when you're dead, but like when you buy a brand new kiln and then you're like, what have I been doing?
If the deal's good enough, maybe next year at NCECA when it's here in Cincinnati, I'll get a new kiln.
Yes, you could buy one of the floor models. Oh my God, plan on that.
That's my plan. That's what I'm saving for.
If anybody from Scott is listening, let me tell you, save one for Ryan. Preferably more than 7 cubic feet. 7 to 10. He went to 7 to 10, not a 3. He doesn't need a baby kiln again.
No, I think the one I have now is probably a 7 to 10.
Yours is 7.
23.
Yeah, yours is 7. So, if anybody from Scott is listening, save a 7 cubic foot kiln for Ryan, and I will make him buy it.
Oh, man. I'll get one.
I think also for somebody like you, because you're a lot like my father in the way that you spend money, is the long-term investment of a kiln. Like how much did you buy your current kiln for? Which I know you got it for free. And
my small one was free. My bigger one was like a deal though.
Yeah, like a super good deal.
It was like $1,500 for the kiln and my second wheel and some other stuff. So
right, yeah. I did the same thing a couple of years ago. But like, is the cost benefit of getting something new and not having to futz with it and having consistent results every single time, is that going to outweigh the where you currently are? Saying, hey, I gotta work with this.
Yeah.
It's not like ideal where I want it to be. Like, if you're
they call that penny wise and dollar foolish is what they call it.
Ah, is that what it is? Yeah, I mean, I can be as cheap as the next person, don't get me wrong. But clearly I'm not as cheap as you. But I understand why you'd want to have a cheap kiln. I get it. I understand it. And spending $2,000 on a brand new kiln is really hard. Maybe you don't get a brand new kiln. Maybe you just get a better kiln. Maybe you get a used kiln that's has a consistent firing schedule. That's the thing, right? It's going to save you more money in the future if you can just put your crap in that kiln, let it go, and it's the same thing every single time. You never have to worry about it running.
I love that.
Yeah, I can put all my stuff in my kiln and I walk away and I know that if it's me glazing, if I'm the one that's glazing, not a student, but if I'm the one that's glazing, nothing I have in there is going to run. Yeah. More than it needs to run, because I have it set up exactly how I want it. And it is like that every single time. And also, that comes into plays once it starts changing, then you're like, something's wrong.
Right.
Something's already wrong with yours. So if it starts changing even more, you won't even notice.
I'm getting even further off of the
right,
ideal.
off of the path.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I mean,
I'm already a little bit off the path. So it's like, if
Right.
something else goes wrong, am I just straying even further away from the path?
right.
Instead of like making my way back.
And if that means fixing your kiln, that means fixing your kiln. But if there's no way to save it to the point where it's, if you're gonna be spending more money trying to fix it than buying something that's more reliable, you already know how to work on a kiln. That's the thing.
Right.
Like when like brand new potters buy a brand new kiln, I'm like, that was a dumb decision, because buying a used kiln is so good for learning how to work on a kiln. Like, if you buy
more value out of learnings
Right.
that you're not getting with.
Yeah, but you've been doing this for 10 years. You know how to use a kiln. You know how to, like, change the elements. You know how to change the thermocouple. You know how to change the whatever that thingy was called that we were talking about earlier
Relay.
today. The relay. Like, you know how to do all that stuff. And that's just, like, it's like working on a brand new MacBook Pro versus working on a 2009 MacBook Pro. Like, you know everything that it can do, and you can use it to its fullest capability now because you already know what it does.
Right. And with
that's my motherly talk of the day.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Yeah. Also, funny little tidbit. I was talking to my mother, and I can say this because I know she's not going to listen to this, but she was like...
Does she know you have a podcast, at least?
No.
I feel like you... No.
No.
I feel like you mentioned before. She doesn't even know I have a podcast.
She doesn't, so we're trying to see as long as I can go without telling her. So I don't even know if she has an Instagram or not. I'm not sure. Yeah, I definitely think that, like, my heroes are definitely the closest people to me. Like, I would say all of my pottery heroes are all of my best friends that are in pottery.
Yeah.
Know? Including you, Ryan.
Ooh. Oh. Thank you. You too.
Okay, we're moving on. So...
So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I like those people that send out packages with, like, all the things inside. Like, like, you're lucky if you get a package from me. You're lucky it has a card in there. Like, the only way you could figure out if it was from me is by either identifying the pottery
Yeah.
or looking at the shipping label. Oh, this is from Five Lines Pottery. Like, I am not an online seller, so I just put it in a box and let it go. But, like, I've gotten things from people. Even you handwrite a card. Like, you're
Right.
all nice about that. I'm just telling you right now, if anybody's listening to this that ever buys anything from me, you're never going to get a card. Like,
bare bones, you're going to get a well-packaged piece that is not going to break, and you might get a
won't break.
business card.
Maybe a sticker. Sweet.
I have some news too.
What?
I have news too.
What's the news?
I got a kiln.
Yes! Oh my god! Did you get the L&L?
Yes, it is not a new kiln. It is a new to me kiln.
Yes. I was just telling Josh yesterday that you had to get that kiln. Like, you texted it to me, and I was like, I hope he jumped on that without waiting for my approval, because I went and looked at the link, and it was like, the person, like, commented on there, and I was like, I didn't see you comment, and I was so upset, because it would have been perfect. What?
I did comment on it, though.
Oh, well, maybe a little late. I don't know. Were you the first one?
No, I was the second one.
Oh, but she gave it to you?
Well, the first one decided he wasn't ready to get it, so he was fine with letting me buy it. So.
If this isn't the most fate moment of all time, I don't know what is.
I saved this. I was like, Rachel, if for some reason you see something or whatever, like, don't share this to Becca if you can, because I want to hold out and tell her
that was
on
the
podcast.
best surprise ever. Thank you. I legit thought that you passed it up, because I actually I called Josh yesterday and I was like, the most perfect kiln for Ryan. came for sale, and I think he passed it up. And I was upset.
Well, it wasn't passed it up. It was like somebody beat me to it.
Yeah, somebody beat you to it. But still, I'm so excited that you got it. It looked like it was in great shape.
It was. Yeah, she got it She got it from like a school auction.
Dude.
And it
Have you already fired it yet?
She never fired it, but they used it at a middle school or something like that. So they used it, you know how
5
like
times.
Middle schools, they probably didn't use it a ton. So it was in really good condition. They've got the little canals for the elements, and
I am literally more excited about you getting a kiln than me getting a $35,000 loan. Like, that is that's how I'm feeling right now.
So we'll see. One positive that I got from this weekend that I didn't expect, but like started the day off really well. So I got to the show and somebody welcomed me there. I think he was a friend of the manager of the event. And it was early in the day, so he didn't have a mask on yet. We were just kind of getting set up. And he comes and meets me, and he puts his hand out to shake my hand. And I shook his hand. So I didn't expect it. For some reason, like having somebody with the confidence to give me a handshake when I didn't expect it. I expected the perception of people to be like, I'm scared of everybody because they could have this invisible thing and they don't want to touch anybody or interact.
Yeah.
So just having that interaction with somebody that was super genuine and like seems like nothing when this was 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Shaking somebody's hand when you meet them. But now, like, you really appreciate something like that.
That's going to be really cool about coming out of this is when you shake somebody's hand or give somebody a hug. I think it's really going to mean a lot more to people, which is kind of exciting.
The flip side of it, we were talking about personalities earlier. My brain constantly asks the question, who says how come and why? Like it just, so if you lay down, oh, well, this is the way it is, quietly, I'm like, well, why? Who says? What science backs that up? What science proves that? How come? And then there's the hunger to know and understand that and just research until I have an understanding of it and then want to know more. So, which is great now that kicked in later in life because that was not present growing up. It was.
Yeah. I feel like
Josh struggled in school.
When I was growing up, I was always the why. So it'd be like the inquisitiveness and the curiosity, not really like the stubbornness. I mean, I guess some people might think that you're stubborn to not just accept it versus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to figure out the brains of how to approach a problem like that and just say, okay.
And I think potters, I mean, in general, we're pretty problem solving by nature. I mean, I know that's kind of a blanket statement, but honestly, if you want to find the most efficient way to do something, and efficient could also equal lazy, and that's fine. Ask a potter how to do something, and we're like, you need to do it in 10 steps, we'll do it in 2.
But we'll take 20 to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if that's how you are, but that's exactly how I am. I will take a year to figure out a problem that will save me 10 seconds.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Sometimes 4 years.
And to also go, I don't know it all. Who can I go ask to? That's to be able to say that, and just go, look, I don't know the answer. I might know someone that does, or can you help me with this?
Yeah.
That's also people should be quicker to get to that point, I feel like. Pinholing is where gas. Yeah.
I'm like.
So normal pinholing is your gases that are trapped in the clay that don't get released through the bisque firing come back through the surface of your pottery piece during the glaze firing and create those little bitty holes within your glaze. That usually happens between 1300 degrees and 1600 degrees. That's your off-gassing stage. That is where all those last little bits of material, gases, organic material, all that stuff is coming back through the surface of the clay and then being evaporated. Anything above that temperature range, then all you're doing is just more vitrifying your clay. So it's important to move through that temperature range of 1300 and 1600 during your bisque firing pretty slowly. That way, those gases can come out. If you move through that pretty quickly, then they'll stay trapped in your clay. And then once the glaze firing hits, they come back through the surface and cause obnoxious little bitty holes. Yes, Rebecca, I see your hand.
I don't want to
Yes,
interrupt.
Professor.
Do we have permission to put your bisque firing and your glaze firing schedule on the Instagram?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll do
Yeah,
that
that's
as
totally
like
fine.
a post.
Yeah, and it's no trade secret, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I've always wanted a better bisque program, and who posted it? It's either Ceramic Arts Daily or Ceramics, one of them posted it a while ago. And it's the exact same thing I follow. And Mike, who runs Continental Clay, where I get all my clay, that's the same program he recommended, because we're using a really heavy iron clay. Excuse me, and I was getting bloating issues. And ever since switching that program over, we've basically taken pinholes down to 0, and also taken student pots exploding down to 0 or 0.5% sort of thing. That basically went away. So it's just all around a phenomenal bisque program, and it doesn't take any longer than a regular.
I disagree. But
listen.
I got the program, and it was right in the middle of summer last year. And I got the program, and I texted him a day later, and I was like, "Here's the deal. I can't do this.
I ain't got time for this."
I was like, "This is way too long. Give me a shortened version."
Yeah, I think I did. I made a condensed version, and it's still interesting.
So
it works fine.
For troubleshooting this, could there do the pinhole, the risk of pinholes, does that vary by the clay you use? Is it by the glaze recipe? Is it by what bisque temperature you go to? Besides the easing through that 1300 to 1600 degrees.
Sure, I would think your clay, obviously the clay you're using is definitely going to matter, because the recipes, even just for regular stonewares, are different.
The glazes matter too.
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm starting with the clay. Listen,
he's starting inside out, Becca.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You don't put a glaze on the kiln shelf with nothing.
So yeah, your clay is going to make a difference, whether it's a high iron clay, whether you're using porcelain, all that sort of thing. And then definitely your glazes too, whether they are, depending on your base ingredient, that's going to be impacted as well. What? Rebecca raises her hand for those of you in the radio,
I was just going to say that my glazes that pinhole the most, none of my glazes pinhole except for my iron glaze and my cobalt glaze. So those are the ones that I would say are good to watch out for. Cobalt.
You have all the same base in your glazes, right? So it's just your colorants that are adjusting.
Yeah, and I have all the same clay, so my tests are pretty across the board.
Yeah, that's what I did too. I have a semi-matte, I have a gloss, and then my white is a base recipe of just 3 ingredients. Yeah. So same with the clear.
Yeah, I have issues with the pinholing in one of my glazes, and I don't know. I generally try to hold longer. It's a Joe's Green, the dark deep green. So I don't know if it's the thickness of the glaze sometimes, or if it's the holding at the end. I generally do fast glaze. But I also was doing an 08 bisque before. Now I'm doing an 06 bisque.
Okay.
Because it's hard to you say pinholing. Okay, how do you solve that? You can hold for 5 minutes at the end of the firing. That's one way. Or if you understand the sciencey part, you're bisque higher.
Technically.
You're bisque higher. So it's getting to that answer that actually solves the problem versus something you would post and say, hold for longer at the end.
Oh yeah. The clay wives' tales on social media drive me up a wall, because those things of bisque hotter. Well, that's stupid, because all you're doing is vitrifying your clay more. Everything after that has been burned off. You're dealing with just clay.
Bisque hotter if your glazes are really freaking thick. That way they don't soak in.
Yeah, so they don't absorb. Exactly. But the root of the problem starts in that off-gassing stage between 1300 and 1600 degrees. If you can slow down your bisque firing using a ramp program to do that, that will be the beginning of alleviating pinholing. The second thing could be to add a hold. Another thing to do would be add a controlled cooldown. Now, the risk with a controlled cooldown is you could also change your glazes. Your glossy glazes could go matte and vice versa. They could also move a whole lot more because you're keeping the glaze, at the fluid stage a whole lot longer than normal. So
I will try to. Oh, go on.
No, I was just gonna say the start is look at your bisque program.
I'll try to on our Instagram, once we get to that point, I'll try to like walk through the tutorial
on solving it.
Tutorial on how to set up a program on your kiln and set up the because just yesterday just yesterday I was trying to figure out how to do a slow cooldown, and he sent me his YouTube video, which was really amazing. So I'll try to like share those on the Instagram.
Especially if you have a couple different kilns, because you have
we can put it in a highlight,
an Olympic, right?
Yeah.
So
I should probably that video was private because somebody else was asking for it, and so I just made it real quick to post it on YouTube to share it easily. I should just toggle that over and make it public.
You should, because it's so much better than the other version that's out there, the only one who doesn't speak at all. Terrible.
Yeah, I pretty much had to call NASA to figure that one out. And be like, hey guys, how do I put the cooldown on the Bartlett controller?
It's so dumb.
It's almost above like put a chicken on your head, jump on one foot, and pray to the demigod of yogurt, and yes, you'll get the cooldown controlled.
Right, like skip this program and go to this one. Like, what the fuck? Like, why?
Yeah, pretty much. And then you get an Excel, and it's like glaze, how fast, hold, yes or no, and then the next question is, do you want a cooldown? Yeah. Well, thank you, Excel. That was magical. I would love a cooldown.
Yeah.
And then you're done.
The new Genesis controllers, like the fancy ones, I have one for my big kiln, and it has it like shows a graph, and it's like how would you like to cool this down?
Exactly. Would you like some tea afterwards? I sure would.
And it tells me that, like, do you want to turn the fan on? And I'm like, is there a fan? I don't know.
That's awesome.
You're like, there's the fan.
I've never turned it on, so I don't know. Like, I don't want to.
Your garage door opens up. How do you know how to do that?
Like, I don't have an entire. Like, I don't want to ruin an entire kiln.
No kidding. Huh.
I haven't turned the fan on. I don't know what it means. But
so that was a long question about pinholes. Start with your bisque program. Ultimately, look at how quickly the program moves through 1300 degrees to 1600 degrees. Slow that down to start with, and then start that first, and then so the main goal is alleviate as many variables as possible.
Yeah.
So start with that one, and then go to your hold temp or cool down, and then glaze thickness and all that stuff. So.
And let's say somebody takes their stuff to get it fired elsewhere, and they're getting pinholes, so they have no control over the firing.
Yeah.
Would you say maybe look at your glazes and kind of approach your glazes at a different angle?
Yes and no. I would, if you're taking it to get it fired elsewhere, and this is kind of my soapbox as well, it really irritates me when I get students that have been in a clay community setting, and I'm like, well, did you like it? Well, my pots kept blowing up. That's not necessarily your fault. Yeah, or the glazes never came out right. That's also not necessarily your fault either. It is on the studio tech, the intern, the whoever runs that place, to make sure that the kiln programs are on point and the glazes are reliable. Because people are paying you money to fire there. They want to be satisfied. So
true.
Sorry, that's my little. Gosh,
I was more referring to people that like Seattle Pottery Supply does glaze firing for people, but they don't like supply the glazes. So like people do their own glazes. Like sometimes that's not even something that can even like. If I talked to Seattle Pottery and was like, "Hey, you're firing this wrong," they'd be like, "Screw you." Like,
somewhere else,
you know?
Which is frustrating because they shouldn't.
Well, I mean,
They should
they have
know
new
better,
management,
but yeah.
so who knows if they do that now.
Okay.
But,
yeah, you can check your glazes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What next, Becca? What do you think?
What you got?
I'm like so excited for this episode, and that's why I keep interrupting. So
You're fine. My favorite's you raising your hand.
Okay. What's blistering? Wait, the next three are what's blistering, shivering, and dunting. So if those all go together.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm gonna look at my notes too.
For me, pinholing is most common. That's why I asked that first. So
yeah.
I have no experience with the other three. So
yeah, blistering. Are you guys referring to that where like you get the big craters?
Probably.
In your clay.
Is that
like
similar to a pinhole, but it's a rounded bubble? Is that a blister?
Yeah, or are we doing bloating? Which would you?
I don't know. I don't know the difference.
I've had blisters. So blisters are like almost like a crater I've seen on some pots before, where it does look like a pinhole, and that's in some heavy iron glazes or heavy iron clays that I've had. Yeah, like Becca's ramen bowl she's got.
So it's similar to a pinhole, but it's round. It's softened. It's not actually sharp.
It pops.
Yes. Yeah, it almost looks like the surface of the moon, like a little crater.
Yeah, like bubbles a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I gotcha. Okay. I think I have a pot here.
Yeah, every now and then our white glaze does that. And it's a little frustrating. And that can be refired. I've seen that happen and remelted. I've had some blistering and then dip the pot in a clear, which does absolutely nothing to the color, but just adds a little more silica. And so then when we refire it, that fluxes out and melts and the blistering goes away.
So my iron glaze is my base glaze and then a shit ton of iron. Mm-hmm. And it blisters if it's not hot enough, cool enough. I don't know why. It doesn't pinhole. It specifically has bubbles that pop.
Okay.
And I always forget when I mix a new batch that I've in the past just dumped like 3 cups, or maybe like 3 16-ounce things of clear glaze into the.
Oh, okay.
Just to kind of like even it out, and it helps. But
I wonder then if there's a melt issue. Then I wonder if there's not enough melter to cause that, to get it to. Because if you're adding a little bit of clear, you're increasing your melting agent and your glass. And if that's fixing it, then that could be.
Yeah. I probably need to just reformulate it and put less iron in it.
Yeah.
It'd probably do the exact same thing. I just haven't.
Or up your alumina or whatever has boron in it. There's your melting agents. And maybe decrease the silica a little bit.
Yeah.
But those are blisters. Shivering or crawling is, the glaze literally just peels away from the clay and comes off. There you have a glaze fit issue. Because what's going on in the kiln, you always have a battle between who's going to contract to who. Is the glaze going to contract to the clay, or is the clay going to contract to the glaze? And there's always a fit battle going on. Now, normally 8 times out of 10, everybody's doing hunky-dory and it's chill and it's happy and everybody's good to go. But there are glazes that exist that will pull away from a pot and then literally just shiver right off.
I think shivering and crawling is different, isn't it? I feel like crawling, correct me if I'm wrong, but shivering, like I've had a glaze when I did a glaze test that literally came out of the kiln and it all just like fell off. It like fell off after. And then crawling, I have glazes that
during in the melt.
Yeah, like let's say I put the glaze in and it was way too wet and it was starting to like move away, then it jumps off and then moves down, and that would be crawling, right?
Sure,
I don't know.
Yeah, we all throw intermixing terms around. Either way, the root issue is the glaze does not fit the clay.
Yeah.
And where I see this in my studio is when students or members will buy pre-made glazes and then apply those with our dipping glazes.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
So they'll put our dipping glaze on first and then put a brush on glaze that's production. And that brush on glaze has an agent inside of it that wants to hold on to the pot because you applied it with a brush versus submerging the pot or pouring or spraying. And I've seen that kind of pull away too. So I try to tell people to put the brushing on first and then the dipping if possible. And then your dunting, that's always fun. That's a contraction issue, and that noise is when that tink, and then you see it split, and it's just like, oh, that's depressing.
And you can have delayed dunting, can't you?
Oh gosh, yeah, sure can. When a clay company doesn't fess up to putting low fire clay in their high fire clay, and then sold it to people. Standard.
No names will be mentioned.
Does the dunting happen a lot in atmospheric firing stuff too, like wood firing? I feel like I might have. Is that where it like where it splits and it like you get like a corkscrew crack all the way down it?
Yeah, corkscrew crack, or I mean just serious fissures. I've had that happen in wood firing, but I made the mistake of putting a very high iron clay into the wood kiln. Which basically just made it almost as brittle as glass, and all of them dunted, which, then I go, oh, okay, cool. That's good to know. And then I called the clay company about that. I was like, hey, by the way, don't put that clay in the wood kiln. They're like, yeah, why'd you do that? So,
I didn't.
It was an experiment from what I heard. It was, Posh John put it in there.
I feel like all of my glazes fit really, really well. Like, really well. None of them craze, which we'll get to in a second. But
I was going to say, you need to bring up crazing, because that's similar to shipping. But
which we'll get to in a second. But I had one, like, vase that literally cracked all the way up in a spiral, and it's still intact. Still intact. It just cracked all the way around, and like, it was so sad. Val was like, Becca, this is the best vase you've ever made. And I'm like, yeah, figures. But yeah, like, sometimes, like, when a student makes something, I'll pull it out of the kiln, and it just, like, is a part. But it's not, I think it's got something to do with, like, the glazing. Because it is, like, once in a blue moon. It's not the glaze, and it's not the clay. Like, because there's... Clearly, I have pieces all over the freaking country. Like, and they haven't, like, fallen apart.
Could it be the certain glazes that are on top of each other, like, layered, and it's,
I've done
like
every single combination ever. And that you could in my studio. And, like, I think it has something to do with the construction of the pieces a lot of the times. Maybe, like... I don't know. Maybe like a minor crack that nobody knew about, or...
Yeah. I've had that happen before, where I've picked up a mug by the lip and just squeezed, just barely hard enough. And it made a little hairline crack, and I didn't notice it even after the bisque. But man, once the glaze shows up, when the clay contracts, that crack becomes super present.
Yeah, but those cracks are usually glaze fills into them, and you're like, hey, that happened beforehand. This is like
afterwards.
This is like clearly afterwards. And I had plates do it too. Plates will definitely do it. But I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's like, that's got to be a firing thing. The slow cool down.
Maybe. You normally do that, right? Or no?
I don't do a slow cool down.
Okay.
No.
Or controlled cool down.
Mm-hmm.
What were you asking, Ryan? The crackling.
The crazing.
Crazing. Let's talk about crazing.
Crazing. I feel like that's a really common one too.
Yeah, that deals with coefficient of expansion, which is just fancy talk for who shrinks to who. And I don't like saying shrink because people think one dimensional, as I do hand gestures for a podcast. You what?
Your glazes and stoneware needs to be equally yoked.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like somebody that's not the right size to wear like a small, and they're like a
Mhm.
medium-sized shirt person, and they wear a small. So it's like it's too tight fitting. At some point, there's going to be some busting, and that's kind of what crazing is, right?
It's fat guy in a little coat is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Fat guy in a little coat.
Yeah, because go ahead, Rebecca. Let's hear it.
We forgot to tell people that this is not biblical.
That's right.
Okay, say that. Say the thing.
Stay tuned. So we're going to take a side tangent and commercial break to represent our insurance agent, who will communicate with everybody that this is not biblical truth. This is just one of three people's knowledge and understanding on what he or she has learned and has come to understand. Clay and glaze break a lot of rules, so these are guidelines. But some things, yeah. Anyway, that's our and now back to our regular schedule program. That's it.
All right, crazing.
That's crazy.
Batman in a little coat.
Batman in a little coat. Coefficient of expansion. The glaze is contracting tighter than the clay, and you get all those. I think they're pretty, especially when you're dealing with celadons. It's just so pretty. You get all those minor little cracks in the glaze, and quite honestly, I feel like the jury's out on can you use it? No, you can't. Don't have coffee with it. Don't have Coke.
Bullshit.
Yeah, Yeah,
I feel like
use
it's
the pottery.
blown out of proportion too much. But
yeah,
generally, would you say outside on functional pieces fine, inside less fine? You can use it in your home or whatever. Maybe second guess selling it, but I don't know.
I'm not going to plant my flag. Like, just because a pot has crazing on it doesn't mean that's not the pot to use or that sort of thing. I mean, pottery that was coming from the Orient for bajillions of years have celadon crazed glazes, and I have one and I'm using it, and it's my go-to coffee mug for this week. I'm gonna wash it, but I like it, so I'm gonna use it. Do I know it has crazing? Yes. Okay, fine. Yeah, deal with it. Don't. Yes, Rebecca with a hand raise.
Also, I should mention that it does matter if your clay is fully vitrified. In regards to the crazing. So like if if I sell one of my low fire paint a pot china crap and it crazes, and that is not okay. That is 100% not okay, because what happens is when it crazes, so crazing, basically your glaze is cracking all around. Everybody's seen it in their old dishes. Everybody knows what it looks like usually. They just didn't know that that's what the name was. But if it's on a low-fired piece, that clay is going to absorb water. And when it's crazed, it'll seep in, and then the water will expand, and it'll eventually pop off the glaze.
Yep.
So that's not okay. Not okay. No. But if your piece is vitrified, and it is completely food safe already. So, yes.
Yep. So the only risk of crazing at that point when it's vitrified is just the talk about bacteria getting stuck in it. But if you're washing your stuff like a normal person does, then the risk of that is almost zero.
Well, witness cones. So normally what happens is there's a trial, and somebody did something naughty, and so they call this witness cone on the jury, and it's just so that's why it's a witness cone, because that's to testify. That was awful. Moving on. Can I get a witness? Witness cones are pyrometric cones. We're all 7 on here. I apologize to anybody. The fact that the 3 of us are keeping it all together for this long is perfect.
And scary.
Yeah, because the "wanna go ride bikes" jokes are gonna come in. Witness cones are pyrometric cones that measure the internal atmosphere of your kiln. So, to me, it just makes complete sense to be using them in your glaze firing, because they're an indication of what is really going on inside the kiln versus your one thermocouple that is just telling you how hot something is.
And that's all given that you're using an electronic controller for your kiln.
Yes,
if you're using a kiln sitter, you would recommend them besides just a kiln sitter cone as well.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I would still recommend using witness cones. Because then you can see what, if you have cool spots of your kiln, you can see, okay, this part of my kiln flirts with cone 6.5, cone 7. This part is barely reaching cone 5. Things like that. They give you a very accurate reading as to what is going on inside your kiln. And if anything, with our medium, more information is better than none. So if you open your kiln and everything looks under fired because you got an error code, or you didn't even get an error code, your kiln fired like you think normal, and you open it up and everything looks like garbage because it's under fired. You don't have, if you don't have witness cones, you don't have any information to tell your brain, oh, hey, I barely got to cone 4. Why? That's really weird. And then again, it's getting back to that baseline question. Okay, what's going on if we didn't get to the cone I wanted to go to? Do I have an element out? Do I have a relay out? Did I have a power failure? You know, all those.
Did I have a tiny shelf that was not very tall and it didn't actually span enough of the elements to get enough heat?
Yeah. Or did I stack a whole bunch of low stuff at the very, very top of the kiln and it didn't get hot enough up there because I overcrammed it. So.
Can you explain what a flux is?
Mm-hmm. So Marty McFly went back in time. We gotta go back. I just watched. When you sent me these questions and I was scrolling through them, I know if they did a reboot, that would be like Doc Brown's grandson or something. Like found the plans to the DeLorean in the barn, and that would be so magical. Anyway, we digress. I told y'all it's going to get janky at the end of this.
Yeah, we're already at like an hour, and I was like, I don't know if we're even going to hold it down.
A flux is just a fancy word for a melting agent. What you want to melt is the silica in your glaze or your clay or whatever, whatever you're trying to bring the temperature, the melting agent down to. So things like alumina, boron, those are your fluxes.
Could you explain what else is a flux? What else are fluxes? Because I don't use alumina or boron in either of my glazes, any of my glazes.
Yes, you do. It's in normal things. So like NEFSI. I'm gonna need to go to Digital Fire.
Oh, I use NEFSI.
Yeah.
So is boron in NEFSI?
I think so. Hang on.
Why don't you know all the answers, Josh?
What about like Fritz or Fritz?
So a frit is, hang on. So what you want to do, think of a frit like it's Bisquick. So if you're going to make pancakes, you can make pancakes from scratch using flour, baking soda, sugar, eggs, all of that. Or you can go to the store and buy Bisquick. And yes, do you have something to share?
I never knew that. I didn't know frit was Bisquick.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't. Okay. Time out. Don't use Bisquick in your pottery. I just need to say that.
And don't
the blanket statement.
And make pancakes.
And make pancakes. Yes, you will die. Well,
you might not.
You're gonna poop something really funny. That's for sure.
That's going on Instagram.
Okay, time out. Yeah, exactly. Just that part. You're gonna poop something really funny. Hashtag JH Pottery Works. Nobody's gonna take class ever again here. Anyway, a frit is a combination of glass, some type of melter for that glass, and usually some type of clay brought to an exceedingly hot temperature. It's melted in a crucible. And then it's left to cool, and so then it's solid. And then they pulverize that into a powder. And then your numbers for your frits are different ratios of those same three ingredients. Does that make sense?
What? Okay, so that's just kind of like a quick jump start. Instead of using certain ingredients to make up, a frit is just a quick substitute. That
you could, quite honestly,
shortcuts in pottery were lying.
Yeah, quite honestly, a frit. I mean, this is a loose statement, out of the bag is almost a glaze ready to go, because you need glass, you need clay, and you need a melter agent. Those are your bare bones 3 ingredients to make a glaze, and a frit is that, all 3 combined in different proportions, and then made into a powder.
What about bentonite?
Yeah.
What is bentonite?
And what does it do?
No. What does it do?
So some potters, John Britt, love bentonite. Every single one of his recipes, bentonite in it.
It's like 2% bentonite, everything.
Yeah, bentonite is a safety net to keep your glazes suspended in water.
So it doesn't do anything in the bucket. It doesn't do anything in the firing. It just does.
Oh,
it's
no,
like
no. Yeah, it's purely
it's cornstarch
for your glaze.
Yeah, cornstarch for your glaze.
Yeah. No, it is my assumption. It's like Switzerland. It's just neutral in the firing. It does nothing. What its main purpose is to keep the electrical charge between the glaze chemistry, so they don't attract one another and then collect and then hard pan in the bottom of your bucket. What's going on there? Mind blown.
I was just thinking, if I put bentonite in my white glaze, would it actually suspend instead of sinking?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you still have to stir it. It wouldn't completely stay suspended all the time.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
It would not hard pan. Yeah, hard panning is awful.
It's terrible.
But what's going on? It's an electrical charge change where the glaze chemistry is attracting to itself, and then they're lining up and forming. They're becoming impermeable, and so then they go to the bottom of the bucket, and then all the water sits on top. The reason this is important is because people that dig ponds want to put soda ash on their clay particles to change the charge, so your pond doesn't drain every time you dig a hole. They want the clay to attract to itself and form a solid membrane and a barrier to keep your pond full of water. Potters want the opposite to happen. We don't want our clay and our glaze chemistry to solidify and settle to the bottom of our buckets where all the water sits on top.
Wait, did Jesus create the ponds that have, is... I'm sorry.
We're going to pause because we're not quite sure where Becca's going with this.
What?
Should we just move on? I mean, he walked on the water, right? Like, it wasn't. Did Jesus? Did Jesus do this?
The deadpanning in the clay. Did Jesus make that, or did man make that?
What do you?
Because of the ponds. Because of the ponds.
Oh. No, I don't know. Oh, I told y'all. For y'all listening, oh man, it's gonna get weird. Yep. Jesus made everything, Rebecca.
I'm sorry.
Including Oreos.
I've been fully listening.
Yeah. Now we have a right fire engine red, but it's a Mason stain. Is what we had to use in order to get Roxanne red is what we named it.
Red.
Mm-hmm. And we got exactly, that's why, because we had Justin Timberlake Sexy Black, and we needed Roxanne Red. So
I'm bringing Sexy Black.
Yeah, why people name studio or glazes really dumb thing. I'm like, come on, no, let's have fun with studio glazes. So we have a new one called Rusty Nuts.
It should have been Rusty Nipples. It should have been Rusty Nipples.
I want people to come to the studio and stay.
It looked like
it was originally named Rusty's Nuts, and we're like, let's not make it possessive. Because people are like, who is Rusty?
Hey guys. guys, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate it, and we're having so much fun. If you want to follow us individually on Instagram, you totally can. Ryan's Instagram handle is @RD Ceramics, and mine is 5 Lines Pottery. That's the number 5. We would love to hear from you, and don't forget to write us a review on our podcast. We read every single one of them, and we totally appreciate them. They help us out an awful lot, and they also put smiles on our faces. I hope you guys continue to listen, and we love you. Thanks. Bye.